The Rolex market is constantly changing, just like the stock at LWC. I'm going to give you guys a snippet of some of the stock that we've got in our cabinet and the live market prices.
Rolex never saw this coming. South Park took sharp aim at the luxury watch world, exposing its flashy secrets and mocking its wild prices. The episode hit hard, leaving Rolex and other big brands scrambling. Fans laughed, but the watchmakers weren't happy. What happened next? Join us as we reveal the roasts of the luxury watch industry. A sweet scandal unfolds. Homer Simpson entered a fancy shopping mall. He was amazed when he saw a beautiful Rolex display. The lights reflected off the glass, making the watches sparkle like stars. Homer was drawn to a specific watch priced at $80,000. He jokingly asked if the watch was made by Swiss elves. The store employee smiled and said the watch is Swiss luxury made in Guangzhou. People laughed loudly. Lisa Simpson then used her tablet to show that many luxury watches are made in Chinese factories for profit, not magic. Bart walked in holding two identical-looking watches. He asked a fun question about which one was expensive and which one was cheap. He revealed that both watches were made in the same place. The joke was a hit, but it didn't stop there. What started as a small joke from The Simpsons quickly turned into something huge. The internet went crazy. TikTok was full of videos from the episode. YouTube was filled with reaction videos. The news spread rapidly. Watch collectors, who are usually cool and collected, were suddenly in a frenzy. Why? Because a seemingly funny joke from a cartoon was inspired by rumors and secrets circulating in the high-end watch industry for a long time. The Simpsons had suddenly shed light on a controversial topic that was previously kept under wraps. The following day, there was a lot of activity on online discussion boards. Users on Reddit analyzed each scene from the episode and talked about all the small things. Documents that were leaked started to show up once more. What was once only whispered about was now a major problem. Rolex is a famous luxury watch brand that has always shown off its Swiss-made label. However, despite this label, some parts of the watches, like the movements, dials, and cases, were made in China. The watches were then finished and put together in Switzerland, where they were labeled as Swiss-made in compliance with the law. There was a loophole in Swiss law that allowed products to be labeled as Swiss as long as 60% of the production costs were tied to Switzerland. The Simpsons didn't explain this rule in detail, but made it clear in a scene with Bart holding two watches. One had a serial number, and the other had a cease and desist letter, showing the rule in a simple and clear way. At Rolex headquarters in Geneva, the atmosphere became tense. The CEO was already upset about leaks regarding Chinese manufacturing earlier in the year, but became even more angry after an episode of The Simpsons aired. Emergency meetings were called, and lawyers worked quickly to draft legal notices. Rumors circulated that the CEO threatened to sue the cartoon show. The CEO supposedly contacted Fox executives who broadcast The Simpsons and asked them to take down the episode or at least edit it to remove the offensive material. However, Fox refused to comply and kept the episode on air. In the realm of satire, this type of content is considered to be protected. Rolex did not make any public statements, but there was a lot of turmoil within the company. The PR team worked hard to fix the reputation damage. They attempted to change the narrative through new advertisements and positive initiatives. However, it was already too late. Every promotional post they made was quickly overshadowed by numerous memes and jokes. The internet had discovered a new cause of humor, with Rolex being the main target. Social media influencers quickly got involved. Challenges on TikTok became popular very quickly. One popular video showed a creator comparing a fake Rolex to a real one, joking about the price difference. The comments on the video were filled with laughter. People started to say that the real and fake watches looked nearly identical. The audience found this combination of humor and controversy to be perfect. Even people who have been fans of Rolex for a long time joined in on the trend. Influencers who used to proudly display their Rolex collections were now mocking the brand. Some even confessed to feeling ashamed about wearing their watches in public. The reason wasn't that the watches were no longer fashionable. It was because they now represented being tricked into paying too much for something that wasn't exactly what it claimed to be. Celebrities also became targets. Photos of famous people wearing Rolex watches at events were turned into funny internet jokes. One meme in particular featured a smiling celebrity with a caption about spending a lot of money for a watch that was made in China. Rolex had encountered difficulties in the past, but this was a unique situation. It wasn't just a rumor among collectors, it was a scandal that spread rapidly and was mixed with humor. To make matters worse, it originated from a popular cartoon character. The Simpsons revealed a secret about the watch industry that had been hidden for a long time. A scene with Homer, Lisa, and Bart brought attention to something that YouTubers and journalists had been trying to expose for years. Simpsons language influence. The Simpsons isn't just a regular cartoon, it has had a huge impact on entertainment. It has made people laugh and also influenced the way we speak, watch TV, and view the world. Starting as a simple show, it quickly grew into something much more significant, shaping everything from how we communicate to societal expectations. One of the ways The Simpsons has impacted culture is by introducing new words and phrases. Many of these terms, which originated on the show, have become commonly used in everyday language without people even realizing they were from The Simpsons. For example, Homer's exasperated grunt, "dough," has become so popular that it is now included in the Oxford English Dictionary. The actor who plays Homer, Dan Castellaneta, was inspired by an old comedy actor, James Finlayson, who had a similar exclamation. The creators of The Simpsons asked Castellaneta to make the sound shorter and snappier, resulting in the iconic "dough" that fans worldwide easily recognize. Another memorable phrase that had a big influence was when groundskeeper Willie called the French cheese-eating surrender monkeys. This line became popular in political debates, especially when talking about the Iraq War in the early 2000s. Journalists and writers used the phrase in their articles and discussions, highlighting how The Simpsons could affect important conversations. The TV show also created new words like cromulent and embiggen, which were featured in an episode called Lisa the Iconoclast. Even though these words were meant to be funny, they have been included in real dictionaries and scientific writings. Cromulent means acceptable or okay, while embiggen amusingly means to make something bigger. Another fictional word, quijibo, was used by Bart in an episode called Bart the Genius during a game of Scrabble. Surprisingly, this word was later used as an alias by the person responsible for creating the Melissa computer worm, proving that even a small joke from the show could have unexpected consequences in real life. The show has provided us with humorous phrases that are now commonly used to convey emotions or scenarios. For example, in an episode, news anchor Kent Brockman says, "I, for one, welcome our new insect overlords," which has become a popular joke representing acceptance of something powerful. This phrase has been widely used in various forms of media and online conversations. Another simple phrase popularized by The Simpsons is meh, which is used to express boredom or indifference. In 2008, meh was officially included in the Collins English Dictionary. The show is good at coming up with catchy words. For example, phrases like yoink, used when someone takes something quickly, and craptacular, a mix of crap and spectacular to describe something that is wonderfully bad, were created by The Simpsons. These words began as jokes, but now they are commonly used by many fans in their daily conversations. The influence of The Simpsons goes beyond just words. The jokes and phrases from the show are often turned into memes and spread across the internet. One popular meme features Jasper Beardley saying, "That's a paddlin'," in an episode called The PTA Disbands. This quote has been shared countless times online in humorous images and videos. Another memorable meme moment is the steamed hams scene from an episode called 22 Short Films About Springfield, which has become a beloved scene among fans and internet users for its absurd humor and funny dialogue. The Simpsons not only impacted language and the internet, but it also made a big change in television. Prior to The Simpsons, Most animated shows on American TV were geared towards kids. In the 1980s, experts thought cartoons wouldn't work in prime time for adults due to the high production costs. However, The Simpsons proved them wrong by being both entertaining for adults and making money. Due to its popularity, other TV networks attempted to imitate The Simpsons by making their animated shows for prime time. However, programs like Capital Critters, Fish Police, and Family Dog didn't succeed. They were costly to produce and didn't have the same appeal. One of the factors that helped The Simpsons save money was outsourcing a lot of its animation to South Korea. This helped the show maintain high quality while staying within budget. The success of The Simpsons inspired American television networks to be more open to adult animated shows. In the 1990s, there was a surge of new animated series made specifically for adults. Shows such as Beavis and Butthead, South Park, Family Guy, King of the Hill, Futurama, created by Matt Groening, the same creator as The Simpsons, and The Critic, produced by Gracie Films, the same company behind The Simpsons, were all part of this trend. Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, has acknowledged that The Simpsons paved the way for his show and others in the same genre. In many ways, The Simpsons revolutionized television by introducing a unique type of animated comedy for adults. The Simpsons has appeared in other TV shows, creating exciting moments for fans. Let's look into challenges which Rolex faced. Rolex's reputation fell apart. The problem began right away. When the contentious episode of The Simpsons aired, Rolex acted quickly. They didn't waste any time. Initially, they took a legal approach. Groups of lawyers quickly sent takedown notices. Letters to stop and desist were written and sent to Fox, asking for the episode to be deleted or modified. However, the harm had already started spreading. Clips from the episode had already been downloaded by viewers all over the place. People edited the clips, reposted them, and shared them on all the major social media platforms. The internet was moving faster than any legal team could. The videos were spreading rapidly, making them impossible to manage. Recognizing that using legal methods was not effective, Rolex changed their strategy. They decided to collaborate with influencers, believing that popular internet personalities could help improve the situation. They made generous offers to influencers, promising large sums of money to clarify the confusion surrounding the production location of Rolex watches. However, this plan did not go as planned for Rolex. One influencer revealed the offer publicly, stating that Rolex had offered them $50,000 to tell what they believed was a falsehood. The influencer declined the money, and their post went viral just like the original clips. Desperate to improve their image, Rolex changed tactics and put out a series of high-quality ads. These advertisements featured Swiss factories covered in snow, shiny golden gears, and skilled hands assembling watches with care. The main idea was to show that Rolex watches were still being made in Switzerland by expert craftsmen. However, every time these ads were shown, they were quickly edited and paired with clips from The Simpsons, creating a stark contrast. Despite Rolex's efforts to manage their reputation, the internet continued to resist their message. The issue wasn't only with the cartoon or the influencers. The main adversary was the truth. Once the internet latches onto a truth, it's hard to shake off. The trust that Rolex had worked hard to establish over many years was crumbling. This had repercussions beyond just one company. The whole luxury watch industry was shaken up by the impact. People who used to spend large sums of money on Swiss watches were now feeling ashamed. Online forums, once full of excitement about new watch purchases, were now filled with disappointment. Investors in Rolex watches were quickly selling them off, expressing regret for buying into the hype. Messages on the forums reflected this sentiment, with people admitting they had been fooled by the marketing. The uncertainty spread to other luxury watch brands like Patek Philippe and Audemars Piguet. People began to question the authenticity of these expensive watches, wondering if they were also manufactured in China. Watch stores worldwide began to see a change. Stores that were once crowded with eager customers were now empty. Waiting lists that used to be long were now getting shorter. Even employees were noticing a difference in the atmosphere. Customers who used to be excited were now arriving with suspicion. The special feeling was no longer there. Before The Simpsons aired that memorable episode, the Rolex unofficial sales market was thriving. Rolex watches were seen not just as luxury items, but as assets. There was a belief that purchasing a Rolex was similar to investing in the stock market. If you bought a Submariner, its value would go up. If you bought a Daytona, its price would shoot up in just a few months. This perception made Rolex a desirable investment. Show off your wealth by wearing a Rolex and watch its value increase. For many collectors, it was an easy decision to make. The Simpsons revealed the truth behind luxury watches, destroying the dream for many. The episode exposed how an expensive Rolex could be made in a Chinese factory, causing trust to crumble. The belief in Rolex watches as a valuable investment vanished overnight. The once proud symbol of wealth now brought embarrassment. People began to doubt the authenticity and worth of Rolex watches. The gray market was immediately and harshly affected. Prices dropped significantly. Highly sought-after models like the Submariner Hulk and stainless steel Daytona were suddenly widely available on websites selling pre-owned items. However, there was a lack of interested buyers. Listings on websites like Chrono24 remained unsold. Watch enthusiasts on Reddit forums began to panic. Collector groups on Discord started to provide emotional support. Private discussions between dealers all conveyed the same message. The market had crashed. Some sellers remained optimistic, believing prices would go back up. However, the story kept circulating on the internet. Screenshots, memes making fun of Rolex, and images of factories being shared widely. The harm done couldn't be undone. Sellers began reducing prices drastically in order to make any sales. Confidence gave way to fear and uncertainty. Private collectors were very angry. They had spent a lot of money on what they thought were rare and valuable watches. But now they felt like they were fooled into buying expensive watches that were not worth as much anymore. One collector used to proudly show off his Rolex at work, but now he hides it because he feels embarrassed. This embarrassment is deeply felt. Next, there were clearance sales. Dealers who used to value their Rolex watches now tried to sell them quickly. Watches that were supposed to become more valuable were now being sold for less than what they originally cost. What is Rolex all about? And what name have they made for themselves over the years? Let's find out. The perfect companion for extreme adventure. Rolex is famous for creating watches that are attractive and durable. They have developed specific models that can withstand extreme environments like deep underwater, high mountains, dark caves, frozen polar landscapes, and long-distance flights. These watches are not just for timekeeping, but also for supporting adventurers in challenging conditions. The Rolex Submariner, which came out in 1953, was one of the first watches designed for extreme activities like deep-sea diving. This watch was specifically made to withstand the pressure of underwater diving. It helped divers keep track of time while they explored the underwater world. In 1967, Rolex introduced another dive watch called the Sea Dweller, which had a helium release valve. This valve was important because when divers spend a long time underwater, helium gas can get trapped inside the watch. If this gas is not released, it could damage the watch when divers come back up to the surface. The helium release valve allowed the gas to escape safely. Rolex collaborated with Doxa, a company known for dive watches, to develop this feature. Rolex didn't just focus on making watches for the sea. They also created timepieces for land activities. In 1953, Rolex launched the Explorer model specifically for mountain climbers and adventurers who faced extreme cold, rough terrains, and high altitudes. That year, Sir John Hunt led a successful expedition to the top of Mount Everest. Rolex designed the Explorer watch to commemorate this milestone. Even though Rolex backed the expedition, Edmund Hillary wore a Smith's watch when he reached the summit. Nevertheless, the Explorer watch became a symbol of bravery and exploration. Rolex kept making upgrades to the Explorer watch. The 39mm Explorer was designed to be a durable and reliable watch for tough conditions. It was equipped with Paraflex shock absorbers to help it withstand sudden impacts or shocks that could occur during mountain climbing or exploration in new areas. In 1971, Rolex launched the Explorer II, a variation of the original Explorer watch. The Explorer II featured a 42mm case, a date function, and a vibrant orange 24-hour hand. This additional hand, together with the bezel marked with 24-hour numbers, was particularly useful for individuals working in locations where distinguishing between day and night was challenging, like caves or polar regions. In these areas, it could be light or dark for extended periods, making it difficult to determine the time of day. The 24-hour hand assisted explorers in determining whether it was daytime or nighttime. Not all exciting experiences occur on land or under the sea. Some take place up in the air. In 1955, Rolex introduced the GMT Master, a watch specifically made for pilots and airline crews. At that time, Pan Am Airways requested Rolex to design a watch that could display 2 different time zones simultaneously. This was crucial for pilots who traveled across various countries and continents and wanted to keep track of both local time and GMT Greenwich Mean Time, the standard time used in aviation. Pilots also relied on this time for navigation during long flights, especially when looking to the stars for guidance. The GMT Master made it simple for them to always be aware of the time, no matter where their flight took them. Each Rolex watch was designed with a specific function in mind. These watches were created not just for appearance, but to assist individuals who were testing the boundaries of human capacity. Whether plunging into the depths of the sea, reaching the highest peaks, navigating through caves, enduring extreme cold in polar regions, or soaring above the clouds, Rolex watches demonstrated their reliability. What shook Rolex to its core? For many years, Rolex was more than just a watch company. It was seen as a dream, a symbol of status, and a legendary brand. People didn't just purchase Rolex watches to know the time. They bought them because having a Rolex meant you were successful. The marketing strategy was smart. Rolex promoted the watches as not just luxurious accessories, but also as smart investments. They claimed that buying a Rolex today would increase in value over time. It was something you could pass down to future generations, as a Rolex was believed to be durable and last a lifetime. Many people used to think this was true. Rolex had a good reputation among the public. Customers were confident in investing thousands of dollars in their watches because they believed the value would never decrease. People considered Rolex watches as a secure way to save money. However, everything suddenly took a different turn. The change did not result from a scandal related to crime or fraud. It was not due to a government investigation or a sensational report by a journalist. Rather, the unexpected catalyst for change was a cartoon. The TV show The Simpsons, a popular animated comedy, caused a major disruption in the luxury watch industry with a single episode. In a brief moment of animation, they revealed a long-concealed secret of the luxury world. In that particular scene, it was implied that high-end watches such as Rolex were manufactured in the same factories as cheaper imitations. This revelation came as a shock to viewers. It made people begin to doubt everything. If an animated show could reveal this in a few jokes, it would make people wonder about the reality of these brands. Buyers started to have doubts. The trust in Rolex's marketing efforts was starting to weaken. Instead of believing the watch would increase in value, people were now concerned it might lose half its value quickly. Many were no longer willing to invest $50,000 or more in something that could potentially be fake. If that were the case, then Rolex's narrative was just a result of savvy marketing and not the truth. This situation was not just related to a single television show. It was about people's strong belief in Rolex being unique, exceptional, and unbeatable. When that belief was shaken, the entire reputation of Rolex began to crumble. Even the social media personalities and content creators who had been endorsing Rolex watches for years began to shift their opinions. These individuals had built their reputations on showcasing, unpacking, and celebrating Rolex products. However, following the widespread popularity of The Simpsons episode, some of them reevaluated their stance. They included warnings in their videos and began discussing lesser-known brands. A handful even confessed that they could no longer support Rolex's steep prices. One influencer went as far as saying that The Simpsons had exposed more truths in a 20-second clip than the watch industry had in 2 decades. Rolex experienced a loss of control over its story for the first time. It wasn't just about prices going down, but rather an identity crisis. Collectors began questioning if Rolex was truly a good investment, or just hype with flashy marketing. The sense of security and trust in the brand began to fade. Rolex's long-standing reputation as a secure luxury investment was being heavily questioned. The harm was extensive and continuing to grow. The previously hidden truth about Rolex was now widely known, visible on platforms like TikTok and leaked documents. Many were comparing authentic Rolex watches to knockoff replicas, including $80,000 Daytonas and $80 copies from AliExpress. In some cases, the distinctions were difficult to spot for the average person. This was more than just a shocking event. It completely shattered the reputation of the brand. Rolex was in a precarious position, facing a major decision that could make or break them. Rolex had 3 options. The first choice was to act as if nothing had happened and carry on as usual. They could continue creating beautiful advertisements featuring Swiss chalets covered in snow. Skilled watchmakers, crafting each piece meticulously by candlelight, and scenes of sophistication and tradition. They could hope that the public would forget about the incident. However, this was no longer a viable option due to the Simpsons episode that had become a part of pop culture history. The episode would continue to be watched, shared, turned into memes, and referenced repeatedly. Each time a new issue arose in the future, people would connect it back to this particular moment. It was like a permanent stain that could never be erased. The second choice was to counteract with legal action. Rolex could take Fox to court, attempt to prevent the episode from airing, intimidate creators who mentioned it, and try to manage the online discussion. However, this strategy had already proven unsuccessful. Each time a video was removed, more were uploaded. Each legal warning resulted in a new meme. On the internet, attempting to censor something only accelerates its spread. Nowadays, trying to quiet critics doesn't appear to be control, but rather a sign of guilt. Rolex was faced with a tough decision: adapt or face extinction. It may seem drastic, but it was necessary. To move forward, they had to be completely transparent. Rolex had to be willing to disclose all information about their manufacturing process. They had to acknowledge that some components were sourced from countries like China, Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia, not just Switzerland. In today's global market, claiming a watch is Swiss-made isn't sufficient without evidence. Rolex needs to change the definition of Swiss-made. They should prioritize quality over location, proving that even if some parts are from abroad, the final product still reflects expert craftsmanship, innovation, and reliability. Rolex must impress a new group of buyers, especially younger people. This generation values honesty over brand names or history, as they are used to finding information online, and value transparency. They are more influenced by things like TikTok and viral videos than traditional luxury marketing. Younger consumers want accurate information instead of fictional stories. If Rolex fails to offer this information, these consumers will likely move on and impact the future of the luxury industry. At the same time, smaller companies are becoming more popular. These businesses openly disclose the sources of every component they use. They are transparent about their manufacturing process and provide a list of all their suppliers. They communicate directly with their customers and establish trust by being honest instead of secretive. They do not rely on a long history of tradition to win customers over. They cultivate loyalty through transparency. Rolex is attempting to improve its outdated image by using famous people to promote it, using ads that evoke a sense of the past, and sponsoring large events. However, younger consumers are questioning why they should be interested in a watch that is shrouded in secrecy, sold mysteriously, and kept under wraps. Rolex is facing a critical decision on a dangerous bridge. It must choose between moving forward into uncertainty or staying put and fading away in the smoke. This was not just a humorous TV moment, it was a significant event that shook the culture. Rolex was not brought down by legal action, journalism, or a documentary. It was brought down by an animated show that revealed a major secret of the luxury world. A single joke, one scene featuring a watch made in China worth $80,000, and a comment from Lisa Simpson caused the image of Swiss-made perfection to come crashing down. When the episode was shown on TV, it caused people to lose trust in the products they had bought. It made them see that their expensive items might not be any better than fake ones made in the same places. The special allure of the products was destroyed. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.